Hi, I'm Trevante Baker.
And I'm Chase Brock. And we're here today to take you inside the Chase Brock Experience production of
Big Shot.
With Playbill. So come along for the ride.
I admit that it's pretty slow. But the girls like comfort and the girls like style. And I drive something that drives them wild. You know I get that special thrill in my coupe de ville.
I'm Chase Brock. I have a company called the Chase Brock Experience, which is a dance theater company that's focused on doing evening-length narrative works.
I'm Trevante Baker. I'm co-director and co-choreographer on The Big Shot.
I was working on Broadway as a dancer, then as a choreographer, and, about 15 years ago, this is our 15th anniversary season, somehow we're still here, I felt like I just wanted one little outlet that would be a chance to do something that was untethered from a book or a plot or a score or a set of specific characters and just be able to respond to a musical artist or an impulse or something. And so I said, I'm going to have a little downtown company. Actually, I didn't even say I'm going to have a company. I said I'm going to do a concert. And I did a concert, and it went really well. And it felt actually like it did loosen something up, where suddenly I was working in a slightly different way. There were parts of my voice and the dancers' voices that were coming out that were not what would happen in a book musical. And everyone said, you should keep doing this. And so we just kept producing season after season and commissioning composers and hiring new dancers. And somehow we are here 15 years later, and funnily enough, what we are now doing actually marries that initial theater work, and so we're doing fully narrative, usually 70-minute intermissionless pieces that have characters and a plot and a story, and all the things that I originally started this to escape from. We've come full circle.
I think I remember you saying, what happens if, dancers can act and tell stories and, but still dance, and I think that's the two things that you put in your soup, your little...
Thank you, soup. I feel also like in the beginning, and this probably applies to you, I feel like in the beginning we started with a lot of dancers who had been in a concert dance background for their training or their early years and had ended up in musicals because they pay. And I think that we were all looking for an outlet to sort of use that training and dance, to sort of do serious dance, but do it in a way that furthered a plot. For this particular piece that we were working on, which takes place in the 60s in a small town in North Carolina, and it really is a piece that feels like I do have, in the what do we have the license to tell? This is my family, and this is a story about my great-grandfather, Strawberry Brock, who founded a restaurant, an ice cream bar that became an iconic mid-century drive-in. My grandfather, Bill, was the manager. My grandmother, Jo, worked occasionally as a waitress. My dad worked there some as a teenager. And it really focuses on my dad's high school years. But it felt like, it wasn't enough to just tell my family's story. So we have two families that we're working on.
Yeah. And I think what you said, story-wise, it's how do we tell the story as honest as possible? And this is the first autobiographical piece, and so it's
It may be the only.
And so for me, I was drawn to how do you tell that honestly? How do you tell that authentically? And also honor your family and respect your family and their this nugget of life that they lived, and with this other family and this other group of people that also coexisted in this world.
Boys come and take you out in their shiny cars, They show you off, but they don't know who you are,
My family's restaurant opened in 1949, burned in 1972. So it was a very long span of time. And when I first thought about this idea, I said, let's sort of license one song from each year. And then I realized the show would be 4 hours long and it would be really jarring. And we don't have the money to do costumes and wigs that move us from 1949 to 1972, and we can't age. And so as I was thinking about it, I thought like, oh, let's narrow it down and do the 60s and do my dad's high school years. And then a wonderful composer, Paul Lidman, who is undersung in theater, but is a master of Americana and all sort of forms of American music and vocal arranging and musicianship. I was working with him in theater on something else and kind of mentioned this a little bit to sniff around, thinking like, is there any way that like you'd want to actually write new songs that sound like old songs? And Paul jumped in on this thing like it was his, the conclusion of his life's work. I mean, no one could be working harder than Paul Lidman. And he's composed 19 songs, pop songs, that are sound-alikes to things that you think you've heard, and he hired 6 lyricists. He's one of them, so there's 5 other lyricists. And they wrote these songs. Paul wrote the vocal arrangements, sort of orchestrated and did it all. And we actually recorded these in a 2-week session in LA, a session in Chicago, and a session in New York with some of the best musicians in the kind of studio musician world and amazing singers as well. And so something that's easy to forget when you're watching us all bop along to these 60 songs is these are brand new songs. This was a commissioned score. Mm-hmm. This is the premiere of 19 new pop songs. So it's kind of a new jukebox dancicle.
In this piece specifically, I think experiencing a time that was complicated, complex, and just experiencing like these relationships, and hopefully they can sort of see themselves in this family, in these relationships, and sort of understand. I think as we move into the world, I think there's needs to be more understanding and more sort of compassion.
How sort of 1967 to 1969 small town America is, we can look back at it and say, oh, how far we've come, and we can also look and say, surprise, we're still haven't solved these things, and it takes all of us.
Yeah.
So it's a slice of life, I think, that will, and I hope people are entertained and have a great time as well, and get their arm around whoever they brought to the theater, and have a nice time.
Let me tell you about a girl I know. Can't explain it, but she loves me so.